everybody has different speeds at which they're going. They have different spots that they're at and stuff like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post into Slack a version of the answer key for the one that William kind of left off on when he was doing his part. And that is the moving my character tutorial. And that particular tutorial solves stuff in a very specific way. And we're going to move to the placing objects tutorial, which I will get to in just a second. But I'm going to explain where that solution was a second time in the context of how that particular program solved it so that everybody can be kind of on the same page. But I will say, before I do that, the purpose of this next lesson is to get toward adding some physics or something else to character movement, but also to get some items on the screen so that we can go collect them. We're starting to make a quest for our project. So like the purpose is we're going to like put some items on the screen that are like barrels or something. And then we're going to go collect those barrels, and then we're going to make something happen when that happens. So we're going to place them and we're going to go collide with them so that we can effectively collect them. Okay. So that's kind of the big picture goal of this lesson. And we'll talk about some of the issues I think Daniel brought up, which is related to like, how do I know how big something is and stuff like that? Because like that is actually a tricky issue, especially if you can't see the screen. So. Okay, so very briefly, before we start adding those barrels and doing that kind of thing, I'm going to share screen again. And I'm going to go over the way that the code was solved in the answer keys in the GitHub repository. That doesn't mean if you solved it differently that you're doing it right or wrong. It just means one way that you can solve it so we can kind of get on the same page for the, for the program. So I'm going to go over each piece. I'm going to go over it line by line. And the reason I often do this when I'm teaching sometimes is as code gets a little bit bigger, it's sometimes easy to get kind of lost in the mix of things. And on my screen, I'm going to kill the comments. But if you go into the GitHub repository, you will have comments in there and you can look at them. I just want to have some space so that I can make it bigger. So give me just 1 second to do that. And the first thing is I have a series of use statements. I've used libraries.game.game. That's saying, tell Quorum to understand what games are. Use libraries.game.scenes.scene. That's saying, I want to load a scene file, in my case, a 3D scene. Libraries.system.file, that's to be able to use files on the system. Item 3D, libraries.interface.item 3D, that's saying I want to know about anything that's a 3D thing on my screen. I want to know how to use keyboard listeners and keyboard events. So when William talked about this earlier, he described it as it's kind of like telling the post office to only give me a letter when they have one ready, or maybe it was the library, I forget what example he used, but something like that. And so we're going to be using the system where it only tells me when it wants me to do something, right? We're not going to use the input monitor. If you used an input monitor, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just fine too. I then have class main is game, which we talked about inheritance previously, but I also have a comma there. So it's game, comma, and then keyboard listener. And what that is saying, that's saying I'm a game and I can listen for keyboard events. I can do both. I can do both. I'm a game and I can listen for keyboard events. Okay, that's what that comma means. Besides that, I have two variables at the top of my file. Both are item 3D. Item 3D is just saying I'm something on the screen that represents coordinates. Many, many kinds of things are item 3Ds. You can have 3D models, spheres, it doesn't really matter. And they all get used in the same way, again, through this idea of inheritance. They all have similar properties. They all can have physics attached, all sorts of stuff.
Welcome to my game.
You're welcome. Action main with start game tells the game to start. In my create game, I've got a few lines. I make a file. I make a scene, file set path scene, scene.qs. This is the default. And I load the scene, which has my game in it. I then find two items in my game, both using this function or action called find item 3D by name. And I named one player, and I named one NPC. And then I've added a keyboard listener, and I've passed as a parameter to it me. Okay, now this is a lot of code. This is a lot of code. What I'm doing so far at a Gestalt level is saying I'm finding a couple items in my scene, and then I'm listening for keyboard events. I'm listening for keyboard events. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. My update does nothing because I don't need to do anything on a per frame basis. And then I've got this action called pressed key. And I know that you built this in William's lesson, but I'm just kind of going over it again. Inside of this, I call integer code equals event colon key code. And then I get the X, the Y, and the Z of my current position. The X, the Y, and the Z. X, to remind you, is left and right. Y is up and down. And Z is forward and backward. Forward is positive inside of Quorum. Different mathematicians and physicists and stuff like that all use different coordinate systems, and there's nothing we can do about that. They're not compatible. It is reality. I think somebody was saying OpenSCAD has Z up, and so do pilots and all sorts of stuff. All right, now inside of this, I then have an if statement, and each if has a different code it's going for. Code equals event colon W, event colon S, A, D, space, and X. And that's telling me when a key is pressed to do something. And in this particular case, for every command, I'm either manipulating the Z coordinate or I'm manipulating the X or the Y coordinate. So player colon set Z, set X, or set Y. And when I run this, there's two things to consider here. If you can see it, when I press these keys, it will move the character. If you cannot see it, sometimes it helps to add some debugging here. So you can add say statements that tell you the coordinates. You can add output statements that do stuff that tell you information. And whatever it is that will help you debug, you can choose to do as you see fit. You can also add, and I won't go into the details about how you do it in this, you can also add screen reader commands into the graphics directly. So what that means is if you want to make your game, even though it's 3D, screen reader compatible, you absolutely can. It's just you have to do some work to make that actual compatible through a screen reader directly. This scene that I'm showing, and I'm showing the game right now, shows like a mini castle with some space turrets on it, because of course. And then to my left, I have a little barn thing that I can move my little alien character into. There's no physics intentionally in this particular lesson. It just is moving my character around and showing it only visually. But again, like I said, you can add outputs or say statements or whatever you want to move the command. If I wanted to do that, I could say, for example, when I press W, say player colon get X. Oh, sorry, that would be the Z, so that wouldn't be very useful. But
0.0.
Right? So you can get commands and have it speak to you, or whatever it is you need to do. Whatever information you want it to give you, you can have it go out. Okay, so that's the template that we have. I put it into Slack. You don't have to use it, but I just want to say where the base I'm building on, so that when we get going, we all have like a common sort of way to look at it. Any questions before I move on? Thoughts, concerns, whatever. Everybody kind of with me? If you are with me, can you put like yes in general chat or no, so I know whether or not I can move on? It's the only feedback way I know how to get. So yeah, cool. All right, great. Okay, so now let's go back to the lesson. And if we look in the lesson, the first thing that we do, it says 10 minutes, but we'll do whatever time we need. It says we're going to place some items in the scene. And for this scene, close other tabs. It first says we're going to place items in the scene. That means we have to put them in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my scene editor. And in my particular case, my computer is actually a little bit slow. My laptop's just a smidge slow. This isn't my development machine. So I'm in a simple scene. And inside of it, then I'm going to press Control Tab. Oops. I'm going to go back. I'm going to press Control Tab and I'm going to go to the 3D layer and the palette. And I can turn on the screen reader for this if people want, but I usually just audio describe. Inside of this, I want to add, and I'm going to add 5 of them. I'm going to add 5 items to my scene. And I'm going to choose, I don't know. What should I choose? I also feel like some barrels or something. Floors, decorations. And you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to go barrels. And I'm going to move these barrels so that they're guarded by these turrets. Or actually, no, I don't know where I want to put these. I'm going to put them in front. And I'm just going to place a couple barrels on the scene, 6 of them for no particular reason. And I want you to keep note of what they're called. So I have barrel 1, barrel 2, barrel 3, barrel 4, barrel 5, and barrel 6. So that's barrel 3. Get the idea. Capital BARREL 3. I'm going to save my scene. And then I'm going to close it. I'm done adding my items, but I want to give everybody a sense to do that. So before I go on, everybody go ahead and place the items in their scene. And when you're done, please put in, dude, I'm done, or whatever you want to put in. Okay, Dana's got it. Andrew's got it. Okay, that did save. Co's got it. Just waiting just a few minutes. There's no rush. Okay, great. If you're not done, that's okay. Just keep going, but take your time. Now, we're going to do this kind of the old-fashioned way, and we're going to do these one at a time. At the top of my file, I'm going to go up and I'm going to type item 3, capital D, and I'm going to say barrel 1 equals undefined. And that's a weird phrase. That's a weird phrase. I know that we've got 2 more in there and we're just copying it, but I want to explain what that is doing really quickly. First of all, item 3D is a special class, and you can actually look at it if you want to by pressing Control J. And you can go look at it. It's very long and very complex. It is, let's see here, 3,589 lines of code. It is not for the faint of heart. It has a lot of complex calculations in it and lots of weird stuff. This is why inheritance is so powerful. That's 3,589 lines of code you don't have to write because we managed it for you. And when I say item 3D here, what I'm literally telling the computer is make a spot in memory, give that spot a name, and then when I say equals undefined, that means, and don't fill it with anything. Fill it with intentional garbage. And that's a little weird. Why would I make a spot for something and then fill it with intentional garbage? Why would I do that? That makes no sense. Why would I do that? Anybody know? Why would I make a spot in memory and fill it with trash? There's a really good reason, and it's not very obvious.
So that it's easier to access.
It's easier to access. What does that mean, easier? Like, what does that mean?
It's
easier?
already is stored in your RAM.
Yeah,
in
it's
memory.
stored in RAM, but it's a location to store it. That's true. It is in RAM. Well, it's kind of in RAM. It stores the location in RAM, but there's nothing there. Why would I want that? Why would I want the location, but not the item? Anybody have a guess? It's kind of not very intuitive. Okay. It's kind of Rube Goldberg, but it's the truth. The scene editor is storing what's in your scene, right? When your program boots up, that barrel doesn't exist. And it has a location that's going to be stored in the scene, but we need to get access to it. And we want that to be at our global level. So we need to say, hey, I want access to this thing, but I don't think it's been made yet. So I'm going to request it later. And that's what this line of code is supposed to do. It says, I have something that I'm going to store it here, but I don't know where it is. I'm going to go request it. This is super powerful and super common in computer science. I do this all the time. I send a request to the internet. I say, get me back some information. I don't know when it will arrive, but when it's ready, put it in this location. That's the kind of thing. It's like sending a request to World of Warcraft, sending a request to your bank, sending a request to hack the Pentagon, whatever it is you're going to do, right? Okay, so I've got item 3D barrel 1 equals undefined. Just like my player and my NPC, I am going to call my barrel 1 equals, and I'm going to find item 3D by name, and I'm going to use copy paste for that, but I'm going to say find item 3D by name, a left paren, 2 double quotes and a right paren, and that will get rid of the compiler error. Okay. And inside of this message, inside of this thing, I want you to intentionally put the wrong name. Specifically, I'd like you to type Amanda Rada. It's very important. It has to be exactly that. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but that's what I'm going to type. And I want you to type output barrel 1 colon get name. And I'm going to put these 2 lines of code in Slack so you can have them. This code is intentionally wrong, as Amanda will attest to. Oops. Putting it in Slack so you can just copy paste it straight out if you want to. And this code is going to have something crazy happen. If you'd like to try to run it, you can. And I'd like someone to tell me what this code causes. And then we're going to figure out why it happens. This is a common thing you will run into in any computer program that you ever write. It's really, really common. And it's such a common error, it has a name. And I want to make sure you know what this is, because you will run into it, or your students will. Anybody want to guess what this will do?
It spits out like 10 lines of error.
Spits out like 10 lines of error. That's right. And it will crash your program. It will cause your program to crash. Now, I'm intentionally causing it to crash on purpose. But let's talk about what this does. If I set a breakpoint at output barrel 1 get name, Control K, or I can use the mouse by clicking on the little thing. It's called a gutter. I don't know why it's called a gutter, but it is on the left-hand side. And I run the debugger to this point. It hits this line of code, output barrel 1 get name. If I look in the variables window, Weirdly, barrel 1 doesn't show up. And that's really strange. But if I open the tree, for me, because it's in the current object, it's a little bit unintuitive, but it is what it is. Barrel is undefined. It's undefined, meaning there's nothing there. It's garbage. So to recap, item 3D barrel 1 equals undefined. I then go tell it to find barrel 1, and I give it the name Amanda Rada, which we know is wrong. We didn't name a barrel Amanda Rada. When I then tell it to output the name, that is garbage memory. Garbage memory. There's nothing there. There is no item named Amanda Rada. As such, it gives me an error. And that error states the object being referenced is undefined. When you program in any programming language on Earth, just about, with some minor exceptions like Elm, you will run into an error just like this. It's traditionally called a null pointer exception, and it means you tried to do an operation or an action on something that doesn't exist. Now, it might sound bad, like you're causing your program to crash, but actually, sometimes this can be really useful in computer science because I know that the program crashed, and really importantly, I know where it happened. Specifically, it says file main.quorum. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm going to actually copy paste this whole error from my system to Slack. And you will notice it says on line 5, file main.quorum, class main, action create game, line 27. That's literally the line it crashed on. And on line 27, you'll notice there's only one variable saying barrel 1. So that means the only possible thing that have caused a crash in your program is that barrel 1 was not defined. So believe it or not, from this error, I can tell why my program crashed. Everybody with me? Questions? It's called a null pointer, super important concept. You will run into it as a computer programmer. You will run into it as a student. It just happens. Garbage memory is a thing. Any questions so far? Okay. Now I'm going to change my barrel from barrel 1, Amanda Rada, to barrel 1. And I don't know if I spelled it right, but I'll run it and find out if I crash. And I did. So I'm going to have to find what I named that. What did I name this? B-R-R-E-L. Oh, barrel. Oh, okay. Well, that's silly. Okay, so I got, and then barrel space. Okay, the first one is barrel. The second ones are called barrel 2, 1, 2, 3. Well, must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's kind of lame. Okay, got it. So if I say barrel here and I run it, it should output the name. Okay, it shouldn't. What did I spell wrong? Is it 1 L?
There's only one L in barrel.
1 L in barrel. Okay, I have to learn to spell. Sorry. Yay, I have a barrel. Great. Okay, so now I've got one item and its name. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do this old school fashion. We're going to do something that's maybe not super good for computer programming because of reasons, but we're going to actually copy paste our code and make all of the barrels. So we're going to go up to the top and we're going to make 6 of these. There are absolutely smarter ways to do this. I'm not going to do that because I'm not trying to teach that concept right now. And we're going to copy all 6 of these. Now, in your program, one thing to be aware of when you're programming, although I'm doing this the kind of dumb way and just copying, that's not that big of a deal. It only becomes a big deal if you're doing this across really large code bases. So copying a few lines of code here and there, no big deal at all. Copying 10,000 lines of code, okay, now that's going to be a problem. So instead of just having barrel 1 equals undefined, I have barrel 6. And the same here. Instead of just having barrel 1, I'm going to make all 6 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to go on each of the variables and just rename them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the barrel. So each barrel says barrel space 1, barrel space 2, barrel space 3, barrel space 4, barrel space 5. And I'll give you just a minute to catch up. Once people have caught up to this part, if you can put a sweet or a Star Wars joke or a meme or whatever you feel like it, Lord Palpatine, I'm up for anything that would tell me whether or not we're all on the same page. I see swords. I see good. Thank you, Amanda and Dana. By the way, I should have actually asked, is it Dana or Donna? I actually don't know the answer to that.
It's Dana.
Okay, good.
It's been a recent development that people have started saying Donna or Dana, and it's very confusing to me.
Yeah, well, I know, I don't know if she's on the call right now, but Dania Borowski, I said Dania for a while, and eventually I learned I was wrong. I just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly before I consistently say your name wrong. So, okay. Okay, thank you, Adam Stokozen. I'm just kidding. Your name, I know. Okay, good. Looks like a bunch of people are getting it in there. Steve, Teresa are typing now. Discover. Okay, great. Looks like they're making progress. Close enough. Okay, perfect. Okay, now what we want to do, if we look at our game, I'm going to run these and I can move forward. Oh, wait, did I not put the barrels in there? I thought I did, didn't I? Oh, ha, 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 ha. Okay. On my particular scene, I chose to modify the simple scene, so I forgot to modify that. If you're using just the scene and you modify that, then you keep it the same. And if you use the simple scene like I did, then you have to change the scene file it's loading. And then, oh, shoot. My camera's at a different position too. Cool. Okay, well, all right then. Hey, Gabriel, are you on the call? I don't know if you're on right now. Well, in any case, William, can you make a note to change all the simple scene files so that the camera scene is the same direction?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I can do that. I believe that it's using the camera as it was in the scene the last time you looked at the scene. So
yeah, or something like that, but it should be the same as the other one, I think, right?
yeah, it makes sense that by default they should line up with each other. But did you change the camera in the scene you were working in?
Not that I know of. I don't think I changed it.
Because all it would take to move the camera is that you moved an item around.
Let's see. Editor camera. I don't know. Well, that does look like that is the thing, but why is... Oh, wait. Because I might have moved the cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I see. So if I do this, it will then go from that spot. Oh, because we did sync it to the camera.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
So do you want me to put something in the bug tracker or no?
No, I think I moved it. So don't sweat it.
Okay.
That's user error. User error.
My favorite kind of error.
Yeah.
I don't have to fix that one.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so it sounds like everybody's got this. So, and when I run my program, if you are blind, you can't tell because I'm running it, and you have to add in hooks to tell it other information. But if you put it in the scene editor, you can verify that they're in there, and they are in fact in the particular scene. So what I want to do though is I'm going to add some hooks to hide the barrels, not in the editor. And I'm going to do this as an assignment. What I want you to do is I want you on a new line of code. I want you to say barrel 1 and type colon. And I'd like you to find a function that you think will tell the object to disappear when the program is loaded. And so your goal is to think of words that might be meaningful for this. And this is common in programming. You don't always know exactly what function to call. So it might be disappear, it might be hide, it might be set visible and you pass false or something like that. See if you can't find what you call in order to make all 6 of your barrels disappear when it's loaded. So we're going to make them disappear and then they'll reappear later. So give that a shot. I'll give you 2 minutes to try to solve that particular problem. And once you've solved it, if you can put up the code for your solution for just that part of it, not the whole thing, then please toss that in the Slack. And I'll toss mine in too. Cool. Carrot, hide, carrot. I don't think that one's quite right, Andrew. Surprised, does that compile? I'll give everybody just another minute. Yeah. I see a few people, other people typing. Okay, a couple more people are chiming in. I'll give you just 1 more minute. Okay. There, okay, great, great, great. Okay, ironically, you'll love this. I'll share my screen. I have the same solution basically everybody else had. I have barrel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have barrel and then barrel space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I call barrel 1 through 6 with the hide action on top of it. Now, when you design these libraries, we do often try to make them as intuitive as we can to figure out what they would be. Like hide, I think, is relatively clear in terms of what it should do, but it's not always obvious what something should be called, especially when something gets quite technical. I'll give you an example. There's an area of computer science called, a language in computer science called JSON. JSON is an acronym. Acronyms are sometimes very difficult to figure out what we should call them to make them intuitive. It stands for JavaScript Object Notation, but is that particularly more intuitive than JSON? Or is that, it's often difficult to know what to call things, especially as acronyms and other things get increasingly esoteric in computer science. Now, in my case too, I also have a bug, which I haven't been able to find immediately. One of my barrels did not disappear. And so I'm guessing, I don't know what I did exactly, but like either way, what we're going to do next, we're going to comment out our barrels. And this, you can see me, this is live coding for you. I can see which ones are the problem in real time. So barrel 1 did not hide when it was told to. Well, that's no good. That's got to be the problem, I guess. Well, why the heck did not? Anybody see my bug? What am I doing wrong?
Do you have a 7th barrel in the scene
That's a good question.
stacked on top of each other or something weird?
That's a very good question. Let's see here. Inside my scene, I have barrel.
You have multiple barrels named barrel.
You have 2 things named barrel.
Oh, do I?
Barrel up at the top too.
There was a barrel
Your
that was back
list.
in the smithy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to change this one. This is going to be barrel 6. Well, that'd do it. Okay, great. Welcome to programming. Barrel space 6. Okay, now if I run it, I've got no barrels. Okay. We've got barrels that we can, or something that we can put on the scene. We can show and we can hide them. And we can move around the scene, even though we're not using physics at this particular time. We won't for right now. The next thing that I want to do, and we have about an hour left, is I'd like to go into, oh wait, no, actually, let me double check the lesson, make sure I'm going to apply physics to character movement. We already did that a little bit. I kind of want to do something slightly different here so we can get closer to our quest. What I want to do is I want to make it so that I can run into these objects and have them actually do something. So we're going to have them so that they can appear on the screen and then we can run into them and then we can hide. Now, some tricks if you can't see the screen. One thing that it makes sense to do as you're building your game out, and you can change the logic later, is that when you look at your scene and you're doing testing, make things logically and mathematically what you would expect them to be. So like, for example, if you have a character here at this location, that character's location is 0, 0, -6. And if I want to have that character move forward to map something, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the barrel is a straight line away. So in this particular case, I've got barrel 5 at 0, 0, 6, which means in order to hit it, I would only need to move forward. If you're trying to do 3D, you can't see it, having some hooks like this where you think about it mathematically at first is often helpful, because if you can't see the screen, you have to think about it somehow. There's no way to get around having a mental model. There's no way around that, no matter what you do. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to take in the code and we're going to comment out these sections. So to do that easily, you can highlight over that region and you can press Control /, and that will hide them all. Or you can put 2 slashes inside of the code, and I'll put that into Slack just so everybody can see what it looks like. Oh. Thing on the screen. So that looks like that. It's just 2 slashes in front of all those hides. Is we want to make it so that whenever I hit a barrel, I can trigger that I've got a collision. Now, there's a couple ways to do this, but why don't we start by just having a quick conversation? How do you think we can make this happen? Like, what could we do to mathematically figure out that I've collided with a barrel? And we can try it in a couple different approaches. How would we figure this out?
You can make it so that 2 objects can't have the same XY coordinates.
Yep, we can check the XY coordinates to see if they're the same. That's the first thing that we could do. What else could we do? Any ideas?
Set things collidable and use the collision actions.
There are collision actions that they're built into the language. That's true. Is there any other techniques that we could do?
So much more fun.
It's more fun for sure. And there's a really good reason to use it, but still. Okay, so now I will tell you, believe it or not, the idea of things colliding with each other is actually a deeply, deeply complex topic in computer science. There are literally entire textbooks about how you can make things collide inside of graphics. And I'm not joking. And when you think about it, the reason why is we're having one character move and touch one barrel, right? But imagine hypothetically, if you had 2 Star Destroyers and they were running into each other and they were collapsing in a physics realistic way, all of a sudden the collisions get a lot more complex, right? So let's try the simplest thing first. And I want to take Andrew's idea first before we show anything built in. And let's actually write a program that will check to see if 2 items have the same. And it should actually start to point out why this gets a little bit tricky. So I'm going to share screen again. And what we're going to do is we're going to have one item. We're just going to check to see if one item is mapped to another. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say, if the player has a value and it matches the value of one of the other barrels, we'll do something to it. So I'm going to say we have our updated position here. And so I'm actually going to copy paste my position below here. And because I've already used X, it actually gives an error and it should say that it's already defined. But so I'm going to say X equals player get X. And we're just going to use the same code again. And I'm also going to get the X, Y, and the Z of just one of the barrels. So I'm going to do get the same code. And I'm going to call it XB for barrel with capital, sorry, lowercase b, YB and ZB. And instead of the player, I'm going to say barrel1 get X, barrel1 get Y, and barrel1 get Z. Okay, so to go over these lines, I'm going to put it in Slack. I put this at the bottom of pressed key. Sometimes it messes the formatting up in Slack, so it's slightly screwed up there, but sorry about that. So player get X, player get Y, player get Z. And then in addition, we have the barrel. Okay. And for the sake of argument, let's have everybody write output statements for each of them and see whether we get the same answer once you get to there. output X, output Y, output Z, output X, B, output YB, output ZB. I'm going to run my program, and on every key press, it will update my console. And so you can get this information accessibly as well, because it just gets printed out. So the first time I press it, I get 0, 0, minus 5, 0, 0, 7. If I press it again, 0, 0, minus 4, 0, 0, minus 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. And at this point, you can tell that the two values line up. The two values line up. So in theory, using this technique, it would have hit it, so to speak. Now, granted, although I'm saying that this would have hit it, this is actually complicated. And although this will probably work in this particular case, this type of solution won't work in general. And we'll get to why in a second. But before we do anything, let's go ahead and add an if statement. See if the X values, Y values, and Z values match. And if they do, then we'll hide the object just so we can see that it works. And we'll output to the console that we hit it as well. So if X equals XB, this is actually not good enough. And we haven't talked about this concept with if statements yet, but we're about to. If X equals XB, then that's tells us the X coordinate is the same, but that will be too loose. We need to use the concept of and. We can say and in our if statement. Y equals YB. And we need another one, and Z equals ZB. If all three of those match, in theory, we've got a match. So we've collided. Barrel 1, colon hide. And we're going to output, I totally hid that. Okay, I'm going to put this code in to Slack again, and I'd like everybody to run it and tell me what happens. Does it work how you'd expect? Does it output something to the console? Does it run? Or something similar to it if you'd like to try your own solution too. I will give the first person to report what it does correctly a ninja. I promise, a Slack ninja. The illustrious Slack ninja. And you're all like, I don't care about your stupid ninja, which is the right answer, but I'm giving a ninja anyway. What happens when I do this code or something like it? And I move to the right spot. Anybody get it? Okay, I might have to give myself a ninja. Oh, wait. Yeah, but what happens? What happens? What happens? Type quickly. They stack. Okay, let's see if Andrew's right.
Well, they're on the same spot kind of thing.
They're on the same spot, but
Yeah.
what happens in the game?
Nothing. They're just overlapping each other.
Okay.
And the barrel hides.
Oh, and the barrel hides. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay. On my screen, when it hits, it says it totally hid that and the barrel disappeared. Okay, great. So there's no problem, right? We now just did collisions. So why would I even say that this is maybe not the best solution in the world? Why would I even say that? Can anyone think at a conceptual level why this would be hard?
Well, what part collided with what part?
Aha, that's a good one. Anybody other ideas?
you have more than two moving objects at once, your code gets ridiculous.
Aha, if you have more than two objects at once, your code gets ridiculous. That's true too. What else? There's a couple other reasons as well. Anybody think of one? I'll give you a clue. Dana said earlier that she rotated objects and that she had to move the stairs at half step increments. Would that cause a problem with this code? Why would that be a problem?
I mean, if the objects aren't directly on those coordinates, exactly where your motion's going to be, then it might not always hit.
Yep, that's good. That's good. And there's one more thing too. There's one more thing, and I'll give you a clue. If I have a computer game, I mean, not a computer game, not a computer game. If I'm in real life and I kick a ball, to know where that ball ends up, do I need to know where I kicked it? Well, it turns out to use anything related to physics, I need to know the direction I kicked. I need to know how hard I kicked. I need to know how the collision happened and the direction it was happening. And it turns out all of that stuff together makes this kind of a solution pretty weak because you don't know what you can do with it. And you don't know what kind of limitations it has. It's not sophisticated enough in order to do it. But for the sake of argument, it is effective. And it's the kind of thing, if you want to teach something like collisions, you can do as a starting point, even if it's not actually what you would want to have.
Pretty sure I wrote Pong that way one year.
Yeah, and it does work, right?
It was so bad though. It was awful. And then Amanda sat down with me and like 30 seconds later, we were using the correct collisions and it was way easier.
It's a lot easier. So this is why the concept of collisions are really useful in games, and it feels like it should be a really simple thing. But in fact, actually, the idea of collisions is quite complicated, and it's a little bit tricky to make this happen. So what I'm going to show you is instead how you use collision in order to actually make something collide how you want. And to do this, just to show, to give you a sense of like why this gets kind of like gross, but why it's so much easier once you get there. You'll notice, look inside our little libraries thing, all the different stuff related to how collision happens. You don't need to know all this to use it. I'm just kind of giving you a sense. Bounding boxes, clip vertexes, dynamic bounding volume trees, item 2D nodes, collision points, physics positions, sweeps, all sorts of funny stuff. But what we really care about is collision listeners, and we care about something called collision listener 3D. And so we're going to use these collision listeners to represent what happens in our game. So we're going to go up to our game again. Just like we have a keyboard listener, we're going to have a class main is game on line 9, comma, keyboard listener, comma, collision listener 3D. When this happens, there's an event that turns all green, or like it says, it can tell you in the screen reader it has more information. You can either right click on it, or you can press Alt Enter, or you can, et cetera, et cetera. And it says it adds a use statement automatically, and that one is called libraries.interface.offense.collision listener 3D. And just like before, where we say add keyboard listener, if we press Control Space, it's going to pull up a big list of things we have. Well, in theory. And we're going to try to find what we're going to need for our collision listener. Add collision listener. Oh, fine. Be that way, computer. Add collision listener 3D. And just like before, we're also going to pass ourselves. And I'm sure I spelled that wrong. Did I not? What am I missing here? Welcome to spelling. This is the downside of live coding. Oh, for goodness. Where are you? Silly function. Add collision.
It doesn't need the 3D.
Oh, okay. Great.
The 2D and the 3D are the same listener.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, in order to be a so let's go to the game class. We can find the actions that we want. I'm trying to show you kind of how you can dig through these things and find stuff. That's kind of the whole point. Aha, there's an extra L. There we go. Okay, if we go to game, we can find any function that we want. So add collision. Oh, I see, because it automatically figures out which one you want. That makes sense. In collision listener 3D, we need to add two actions. One is called begin collision and finish collision. After I make sure that we didn't spell it wrong in the documentation or something, I will post this in. And they look like this in Slack. Begin collision and end collision. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put output statements here and see if we can get it to do anything. Began, output, finished. And I'm going to start running around the map. And again, if you can't see it, this is why it's so incredibly important. Oops. Yes. Use. If you don't have the use, for some reason when it's a parameter, it doesn't like giving it to you. I think it's a bug. That's the use, it's in Slack. Feel free to copy paste it. And when I run this, this is why it's so important to have like a mathematical model in your head of where you put things. So like if you have a barrel, then put them like linearly up and around. When you're testing, when you're actually making the real level, it's okay to have things like a test scene and a real scene and stuff like that makes sense so that you can know that it works, even if you end up having other stuff later. So if I run this, I move up, you'll notice it doesn't seem to be colliding. Really weird. And so there's another step you need to have in order for this to happen. And that is you need to tell the system that the items that you have can be collided with. And this seems pretty esoteric. Like, why would you want that? I think it's set collidable. I'm gonna do it and then try it first. But why would by default, why would you want things to not be collidable with each other? Can anybody think of a reason why that might be the case? You can put it in Slack or you can say it out loud.
Everything on my screen is currently collidable, so it just froze when I told it to collide.
Same.
Oh, okay. Everything's collidable. Okay.
Everything's collidable, so everything is setting it off at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. But why might you want something to not be collidable? Why might that be the case? You can set them all collidable too, but can anybody think of a reason? It's not super intuitive, but if you remember, we tested the position of just one item. What do you have to do if you have 1,000 items on the screen? What if you have 1,000,000 items? How many collisions do you have to test for? So I'll put it in perspective. If you have one item on the screen, it can't collide with anything. Ta-da, you did it. Great. If you have two, then you have to test one collision between two items. If you have three, how many do you have to test? Can anybody think of it?
3 separate collisions or 4.
Four. You got to test A to B, A to C. Oh no, it'd be 3, and then
Yeah.
A to C, right?
Unless all 3 of them collided at once, but I don't think you'd have that.
Well, you could, right? Yeah, no, you got to test all with each other, so you can know the set of collisions across. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd definitely be surprised on that. We had a group working with our original collision system before we made it more performant, where they had a game where they shot like a shotgun blast with pellets from something. And it was like 10 shots. And because they all overlapped the origin, it was doing like hundreds of calculations between all of them right on top of each other.
Yeah, this is why even like AAA games from major companies, while they may have physics, they cheat a whole lot. So they make a lot of things not collidable, and then they make some things that are collidable, basically. So, okay, so now let me see if I got my barrel collidable. I set it to collidable. I think mine were off. I turned physics off on them or something, so. Began, okay, great. Okay. So if your things are already collidable, then you're already doing that. But I need to set mine all to be collidable. So I'm going to go in and write that code. If you did that for yours too, that's okay. And if you set them all to just make it so you can collide in the editor, that's all right. But I'm just doing it in code to show you that you can. You can turn it on and off. A lot of what you're doing is setting these little properties. And I do think this is in the editor. So if I go. Right, yeah, so you'll notice that all my barrels are physics enabled off. This is why that they're not collidable, right? If you turn physics on, I think it's collidable by default because it has to be, right? So that's why mine are all off. I just didn't bother to set the physics property to be on. But you can change that too, and that would also work to make sure that your items are collidable. So I'm going to turn off my little output statements here, and I'm only going to set it to show what's colliding. So it starts out colliding with a bunch of stuff. I don't know what it's colliding with. But it's finishing and adding collisions. So as I go through it or not, you can see that it's colliding with all the items. It's saying began and finished, and it's telling you what it is. Okay, so now we've got a game where we've put items in it. We can then go do things like collect those items, right? Because now we have a way to collide with them and give them information. We could also do things like knock them over and spin them into oblivion and all sorts of stuff, but we won't do that yet. So the question then is, what do we do now? How do we get, and let's just brainstorm, and people can put in the chat if you can, if you're willing. What do we then do with these collisions to get them to do what we want? Like, how do we know what we've collided with? How do we know what we've collided with?
You can put the sound effect.
Oh, that's true. You can put a sound effect and that will give you some information. Like if it's a barrel, we'll do something else. But how do we know what we've collided with? All right, so let's take a look. Inside of collision event 3D, there has to be some sort of feedback, audible coordinates. Yeah, we can add stuff like that. If I say event and then I say colon, you can see that there's all sorts of items and all sorts of actions that are in here. Nodes, physics response, collision groups, is enabled, is touching, has physics response, all sorts of stuff. We're going to call two actions here. One is called get item A and then get item B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say event colon get item A. And I'm going to use a magic hotkey that I don't think I've shown you yet. But if I say event get ID item A, it's going to be some special type that it's going to return to me. And I don't really know what it is. I mean, like literally, I don't know. And so I'm going to press Alt Enter. And it's going to magically figure that crap out for me because I don't remember that crap. And it's going to say, cool, here it is. Item 3D value equals event colon get item A. I'm going to do the same thing with B. And in this case, I now have an item A and an item B. And I'm going to output both of their names. And then I'm going to tell you, I'm going to send the code up to Slack. Get name, output B colon get name. And we can and should add things like sounds and stuff like that in here. But I haven't yet because we have to program our game, right? That's what we're doing. So let's see, let's run this and see when we begin colliding with all of our items. And you can see now that it has begin in here, you can see what I'm colliding with: painted walls, floors, stargates, all sorts of stuff. I've now collided with barrel 5, collided with the player and barrel 6, player in barrel 1, player in barrel 2, player in barrel 3, player in barrel 4, player in barrel 5. Okay, so here's what my begin collision action looks like now. If I want auditory information or feedback here, I can add whatever I want. I can add say statements, I can add speech, I can add music, I can add audio. Whatever I want to add here is just fine. I can add visualizations, whatever you want, right? Depending upon who you are and what you have. So that's the idea there. In our case, we're going to hide it. And I promise you, we will be adding sound and stuff like that in later. But we have to do those libraries separately. So you have to build the stuff up one at a time. This is sort of one of the challenges in accessibility in general, is that you still have to learn how to code all those things when you're inventing a product as opposed to using it, right? Because remember, we're not using this game, we're inventing it. That's very different. Okay. The last thing that we want to do is we want to be able to hide this thing. And to do that, we have the names of these items. And so we're going to actually, instead of saying outputting these names, we're going to get variables for these. So we're going to say text name A equals game get name. We're going to say text name B equals B got name. And we're going to use the same if statements that we've been using earlier to figure out what these are. So if name A equals player and name B, and instead of saying equals, we're going to ask it a different question. We're going to say contains barrel. Oops. And we're going to do something. Now, this is kind of a funny thing. We could just say, and maybe I should actually do this, equals barrel 1, barrel 1. Then we can do a collision there. But if we do that, we're going to have to do it for all the barrels separately. But I guess that's OK for now. Then what we're going to say is B colon hide. And we're going to output say as well. I hid name B. Okay, I'm going to run this and then I'll toss it to Slack. Or actually, I'll toss it to Slack first, even if there's a bug in it, because that's okay. So everybody can follow along. Okay, let me go over this code again. We've added a collision listener 3D, which knows how to handle all the weird black magic and collisions. I've added 6 barrels in my case that are all undefined. I went and found all the items. And in my case, I had physics off, so I made them collidable. You don't have to do that if you did. I didn't hide them. I was just experimenting. And then I added a collision listener, just like I did with the keyboard listener, to get something colliding. That made me add 2 actions, begin collision and finish collision. And inside of my begin collision, I get both of the items at a high level. I get their names, and then if I ask if it's the names that I'm looking for. Okay, let's run this code and see what it does.
I hit barrel 1.
All right. So in my particular case, I did it only for barrel 1. And I did a say statement for the output, and I hid it on the screen so that I can get auditory confirmation and visual confirmation of what happened. And now at this point, I have the sneaking suspicion that I've either completely lost you all, or I've bored you all, or you've all got it and everything's fine. So now I need to know, which is it? Because this code is a little bit complicated. So tell me where you're at. What do you got? Does this kind of make sense? I'm lost but impressed. I didn't get any collisions.
Which item A and item B?
Yep.
Which is the I get item A, the player could run into the barrel, but from the barrel's viewpoint, barrel can run into the player, and then it does that matter which one is which?
It absolutely does. And off the top of my head, and maybe William can tell me, I don't remember if there's an actual ordering to these, or if they're like, you have to check both sides. Don't you have to check both sides, William? Is that right?
Yeah, for the collision event and the A and B items.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
because it's not guaranteed to be in any order, right?
I don't believe it's guaranteed to be in any order. I'd have to double check that, but I know that whenever I write the code, I always write it with the assumption that they could come in either order.
That's what I thought too, which is kind of bonkers, but yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna toss that up right now, and then I'll fix the last issue related to that thing. Absolutely, you can have the whole code. Yep. Okay, I'm going to toss up the whole example, and everyone, if they want to, can straight out copy paste if they feel like it from any aspect of this is possible. And like I said, this is easily the most complicated example we've done so far. But the reason I wanted to go through it, and this is why it's in this lesson, or pieces of this where it's starting to get to this, is because this is where you can start to get to really do a real like quest type system in a game. You can like collide with things and move things and adjust things and like have a user interface. You can see just a snippet of sound, although we're just using a say statement, but that's okay. And you can start to see how you can have things trigger when things happen, like, oh, you hit the barrel and some music plays, or all of a sudden you can see how you can make the game do actions based upon what it is that your game did. And that can start to get really cool. Okay, we've only got about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I finish this particular piece. So I'm gonna finish off the last step. Instead of saying barrel 1, there is some other things that I can do that are kind of magical. So I'm going to say name B, and I'm going to look at the options it has. Instead of just equals, I can also call actions on it, contains, ends with, equals ignoring case. This is like to get rid of case sensitivity. Get carriage return. You can get individual characters. You can get, substrings. I screwed that up. Subtext, parts of the text. You can get tabs, indexes. You can replace the text with other things, all sorts of crazy stuff. In my case, I want this function called contains or action called contains. And I just want to know if it contains the word barrel at all. Now, this actually has a side effect. I have other things in my scene that are also barrels. So this is maybe not the smartest thing for me to do, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it anyway. And I can always go rename that other barrel to be not a barrel or something. And this should allow me to collide with any of the barrels. And because I want to be extra paranoid, I don't know what order these come in. So I'm going to flip it as well with an else if. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to flip these around. I'll give you this code, of course. And I'm going to run my stuff and I'm just going to see what happens. Here's my new function. Again, I haven't tested this at all. I'm just kind of like,
Andy,
right? What?
Andy,
Yeah.
you've changed around the order of the things in the if statement without changing which things are testing.
Oh, that's cool. Right. Name A, right? Thank you. Welcome to computer programming. Nothing beats having like 20 to 100 students like staring at your code in real time. Trust me, I do this in class at school too. And like, yeah, people find the errors, like typically it's pretty common. So, okay, so here we go. Okay, I'm running. I can't tell that I'm running because I haven't added any sound hooks like footsteps or anything like that, but that is totally what you should do.
I hit barrel 5. I hit barrel 6. I hit barrel 1. I hit barrel 2. I hit barrel 3. I hit barrel 4.
Sweet. So yes, I have successfully had an auditory cue to tell me that a barrel has been hit in a 3D game. I visually got rid of the barrel. It's technically still in memory, but it's just hidden. It doesn't get rendered. And I can now do things like complete quests and stuff like that because I have an action. You can see it and hear it on the screen. I will now send the entire full example one more time so that people can have it. And I imagine typically at Epic at this point in the day, people's brains have generally exploded. That's a good rule of thumb for this point of the day. So I will open stuff up to questions and I'm happy to chat through any of this stuff. Where are you at? Like, does this make any bloody sense at all to anyone? It's always hard to tell online.
Stefan, since I'm not real familiar with the Slack, you're putting just the code out there because the scene we download elsewhere, or is everything out there? You say you put it on the Slack.
Everybody has their own scenes and they're kind of making their own thing.
Okay.
I put the code on Slack and I can
As I
send it
thought.
to you some other way if it helps you, like email or Zoom, or here, I'll just dump it into Zoom too. Zoom is like awful for source code. It makes me
It
work
is
out, but-
not. That's okay. I'm just curious. So it is. You just put in the code.
Oh, look at that in Zoom. That's just horrible. But anyway, nonetheless, I can also send it by email if you need or something too. But remember, all the answer keys for everything are online. So the on that GitHub repository, and that is accessible for sure. You can get any of the answers. I don't think collisions in this particular lesson, it did physics instead, but William did that this morning. So I want to make sure I did something unique, and this is in other parts of the things. Will the objects that become hidden still be collidable? I think the answer is, I think it's
Should be
no.
yes.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
It
they
was
are
yes
still
in the 2D.
collidable.
I just wanted to confirm.
For
Yes, it's still collidable, even if it's hidden.
I'm
so
going to test that.
that
I
has
just
some
tripped over an invisible rock.
that has some benefits and it has some disadvantages too. It doesn't mean that you can use hidden objects to sort of like trigger behaviors under certain circumstances. A common example you might see used in games is that there's an invisible box that when you step into it, enemies ambush you from like behind cover or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that also means that if you wanted to hide the stuff and not interact with it anymore, you need to either add something in your condition to check to see if it's visible when you're running into it, or you could just remove it from the game entirely so that it's not just hidden, it's not even part of the game as far as collision calculations go anymore.
which is better in terms of efficiency, but you know, that only matters if you're worrying about that efficiency stuff. So, well, that's good to know. I forgot the answer to that question too, so I appreciate you jumping in on that, William, because I forgot. So,
Yeah, of course.
you know the game engine better than I do for sure. So
I have spent just a little bit of time on it.
seriously, yeah.
I don't know. This is might be the a question I'm not supposed to ask, but
Yeah, don't ask it, Co. It's bad.
yeah. You know, instead of manipulating the coordinate, can we apply the force to the object to move it?
Well, it depends. Did you go to Jedi school or did you not? I mean, that matters.
I went through the Jedi school.
He's
You
not a
did,
Jedi.
okay.
He's a
Then
wizard.
yes. Then yes, you
Sorcerer.
can. But beware of the dark side because never mind. Yes, you absolutely can apply force to these things. So I can show you. Let me do that just for giggles, because why not? That's fun. Now on mine, I actually turned physics off on all of my barrels, but I'll turn it back on. Let's see here. Yes. So I know what I'll do. I'll turn. Oh wait, that's the floor. So I'm going to turn physics on this thing. I'm going to make it responsive, and I'm going to give it a bounciness of 0.7, and that's how bouncy the object is. And I'm gonna that's barrel 6. I'm going to save that, and then what I'm going to do is, if I hit an item, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to B : apply force. Yeah, okay. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna see what happens. I don't really know what's gonna happen. Let's just do it anyway, because like that'll be fun. Okay, so inside of the game engine, there's a way to use the force, right? And you know, for copyright reasons, we may have accidentally called it something else. And that requires the use of a vector 3. And like, I wasn't going to show you this, but I'm going to show it to you anyway, just because I want to. And so if this is too much, then don't hate me. I'm going to apply, and I'm going to put pass undefined to this right now, and it's going to crash, but that's okay. I'm going to make a new object. I'm going to call it vector 3. And I promise you that this is actually really simple. It's not like some crazy thing, but you know, we have to do it. So can anyone remember what a vector is from their math days? Like, does anyone have a good explanation for this? It's a really simple idea, but it's not always remembered because math is funny and hard.
Velocity and direction, or speed and direction. Sorry, not velocity.
Well,
Both.
Sort of. It's actually dumber than that. It's dumber than that, I promise you. It is not quite that. I swear to God, this is true. It's just 3 numbers. That's it. It's an XYZ. That's all. Nothing else to it. In the case of a vector 3 thing. In the case of a vector broadly in math, it's a set of numbers, just some number of numbers. And we always represent it in this dimensional space, which mathematicians make sounding more confusing than it really is. And that's just any number of numbers. If you have a vector that has a length n, it has some number of numbers n. But for any case, we're going to say force, and we're going to add, we're going to call add. Oh, wait, no, not add. Set X, Y, and Z. X, and we're going to say, oh, what do we want to do? Let's make it go up. So we remember that an X, Y, and so yes, set X. We're going to say force set Y, and we're going to say 1,000.0. And we're going to say force colon set Z, and we're going to give it 4. Okay. Now I want to explain what this means really quick. I have a vector 3. It's just 3 numbers, but in computer programming, this is why we tie things to meters, because this force is actually in the common physics unit called newtons. It's called newtons. And this works, at least, in theory, if there's not a bug, which there can be sometimes. This works just like it does in physics. And you don't have to understand all the formulas to do it because the engine automatically calculates all this stuff for you. And so by saying x0, y 1000, and z4, it's saying shoot it up in the air and kind of a little bit forward. That's what it's saying. And so we apply the force to center, and in theory, this will make it fly in the air. Now, I may very well have screwed this up, but I'm going to run it and we're going to find out. And I don't know which one I did it to. Oh, only one of them will work because physics is only responsive for one of them.
I hit barrel 5.
Oh, and I crashed. Oh, because I didn't apply physics to all of them. Right. Okay. In the physics system, if you have a physics item and you don't have it enabled and you try to actually use it, it's gonna yell at you. Oops. So I'm gonna enable physics. Oh, I'm gonna enable physics on all these items because. Okay.
If you want the barrels to actually move when you hit them, they're going to need to be responsive as well.
Oh yeah. Well, that's wait. Why is my camera not? Oh, did I go down? Wait, what is the command, William, to go up?
Control up.
Control. All right, I'm on Windows. I'm used to Mac. Yes, that and responsive. Okay. And I got the barrel enabled and responsive. And I go here and I turn it on enabled and it's responsive. And that one's already done. Oh wait, no, that's not done. Physics enabled and responsive. I could have just actually made all these done to begin with. I just didn't. So sorry about that. Okay, cool. I think that's all of them. Okay, now in theory, I'm going to make this go less. Let's go 100 and we'll go -4 so that it flies backwards because of the way my camera is there.
I think you're still going to be hiding whatever barrel you're about to slap into the atmosphere here.
Oh yeah, I think I am. Okay, we're not
100 on the Y is actually less than it sounds like, but we'll see if it's enough when we do
Okay.
it. I recall that I always underestimate how much force it takes to move something with the physics system the first time.
I hit barrel 5. I hit barrel 6.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Yeah, 100 newtons isn't much. So let's go 10,000 newtons and 4,000 down. I don't really know exactly what it'll take to move these barrels, so I'm just kind of playing with it. And this is part of the fun of programming.
I hit barrel 5. I hit barrel 4.
Good move. What am I missing, William?
I hit barrel 3. I hit barrel 2. I hit barrel 1.
Apply force to center.
Does it matter that you're basically teleporting your character on top of it, or no?
It shouldn't make any difference, but maybe I'll kill the
Not in this
cycle.
particular case, it shouldn't.
No.
I don't think that you're it's possible that you're hitting the other if statement, but I don't think you are, because every other time you were hitting that first one, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, but I'll put it in there just in case.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, this is debugging for you. Maybe it's not apply force to center. Is it one of the other ones?
Apply force to center should work.
It really should, shouldn't it? Apply linear impulse to center. Let's just try that too. I don't think that's right.
If you do
Linear
enough to it,
impulses.
eventually something will happen, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, I might have to admit failure and come back to this. You don't have to sit there and watch me debug. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong that's obvious, but in any case, to answer your question, Co, while I may have failed to do it immediately, there is a way to do this so that you can have it start doing funny and crazy things. It's gonna bug me all day. Oh, wait a minute. B, is B the right item? Yeah, it is the right item.
Try
Oh, is that-
try saying B:set responsive right here, right before you do apply force to center. Maybe there's a bug with how the scene editor is saving it.
Good point. No. Okay, well, now you know that even people that code for a living often do this. That
I
actually,
put my
should
I put
say-
my physics-based one into the Slack.
Oh, you did? Did yours work?
Yeah.
Applies force to center. What did I do wrong? Well, you did it to the player, not to the barrel.
That's my player moving around the screen.
Oh, that's your player. Yeah, what the heck?
That's
We
just
have
how he moves.
That's how he moves, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, in any
Maybe
case,
the player be applying the force. That's why Amanda's solution works.
yeah, you're supposed to just apply the force and then it will magically just do that stuff for you. I'm missing something obvious here, but I'm not seeing what it is.
But wouldn't you want the player giving the force, not the barrel, because the barrel's sitting still?
Well, yeah, but I just added the force to the barrel because and then it should pop up in the air because it's sort of like a popping effect.
Is
And then
the
go ahead.
is the player physics enabled?
I don't know. But does that matter? That shouldn't matter.
Well, it might, because if there's two physics objects which are intersecting, then where is the barrel going to move? It can't move in any direction because it's currently inside of another object. So maybe
It's interesting.
he's kind of guessing around at the problem. This is totally not a good use of people's time at this point. Anyone who
No, for sure.
leave, because at this point we're just like rage debugging.
Oh yeah, it is enabled.
Yeah, try turning it off, see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. All right, one last test. If it doesn't work, then we'll call it.
Why is the camera not moving anymore? Oh wait, no. Never
I
mind.
moved the camera.
Yeah.
Grrr! Setting the vector C force to a positive value. Oh, well, no, I didn't try that. Now we're gonna sit here and help Stefik debug. Lovely.
One last try, indeed.
One last try. I'm sorry. Oh my Lord. I know I'm gonna figure it out 5 minutes after the call, but sorry. Okay. Well, in any case, my failure notwithstanding, my temporary failure, I do appreciate everybody coming today, and we have the Pathfinder stuff tonight. I think is the what is it? It's the
Smarter than a fifth grader, which I don't know how many of us can claim that.
yes. I don't know. After my just recent failure, I'm thinking maybe not. So, tomorrow we have 4 sessions again. There are making objects good and evil, adding background music, triggering objects, which will be partially the kind of stuff that we did here, and we'll have some fun with it, and triggering sounds from objects as well. So we're going to start to get into some of the sound programming, and we did a little bit of triggering today. But we're going to start to get into some of that stuff tomorrow, including music. We'll spend some time looking for music online. We'll spend looking for sound effects and stuff like that, and we'll be putting them into the game so that we can get visuals and sounds for our 3D games. I imagine too, when we get to some of that sound triggering, William will be showing you a little bit of how to use the 3D sound objects that you can put in, and then you can hear them depending upon the listener position that you're set for their game. For that, if we do sound tomorrow, which we will, You might want to consider, if you have fancy speakers around you, that's okay. If not, having a pair of headphones can be helpful. Yeah, exactly. Headphones never perfectly describes 3D audio. There's a function that gets used to make it sort of okay, but it's not perfect because you have two fixed headphones, right? So that's reality. But nonetheless, it still can be okay. And I have a pair of headphones that I'll be using as well once we get to that particular point. But I hope people enjoyed today, and I hope that we can have a little bit of fun tomorrow. So thank you everybody for coming. And if you have other questions, you're welcome to stick around, but we'll stop the recording at this point.